Hey, and welcome back to my channel. As a recruiter, you will have two main types of people you are in constant communication with: clients and candidates. Your clients will be the companies that reach out to you for assistance with finding new recruits, while the candidates are the recruits themselves, whether you found them for a company or they came looking for you. As with any sales-like jobs in which you're constantly interacting with and assisting a variety of different types of people, you will want to make sure you streamline the process to make it go smoothly as possible for everyone that's involved. There will be times when you work with a client or even a candidate and run into some roadblocks. It happens to everyone throughout all different professions. This video will explore some tips on working with clients to ensure a smooth, friendly process that ends well for everyone: the client, the candidate, and of course, you, the recruiter. It's important to remember that not every experience will be a pleasant one. Try to evaluate your clients based on these tips to see if they're worth working with. Beware of stubborn hiring managers. Remember, you are the expert and they hired you for a reason. While it is perfectly reasonable to have requests and preferences, if the client acts like they are always right and you're always wrong, you are at risk of maintaining a difficult relationship going to the future. You may end up going around in circles with the client, leading to an unnecessarily large workload. While I'm never a fan of walking away from a client, try to really evaluate if the client is worth your time. You could be having a better paying, more pleasant experience elsewhere. Before we get started though, as always, please consider liking, subscribing, clicking that bell. It's completely free and really helps us out a lot. Understand what they're looking for. Hiring managers don't always know exactly what they're looking for in a candidate. They may have a rough idea, but depending on who you're hiring for, they may not even be familiar with the role they're looking to fill. In this scenario, our job is to make sure we ask prepared, detailed questions that will help you determine who is the best fit for the role so that you can conduct a successful search. These questions will be prepared for the client in advance, and you'll need to get detailed information before you can start your search for the perfect candidate. Start with the simple and basic questions like ideal backgrounds, tools, skill set, and then really start digging deep and ask other questions like, who will the new candidate report to? What is their exact job responsibilities and scope? What exactly will they be building or designing? Other questions like, is this a new position or a replacement? What does their current pipeline look like for prospective candidates? Are they using other resources or tools to hire? And what does their entire interview process look like? Don't forget to go over the basics of the company as well. How old is it? What is the current funding round? What does the company do? Who are the founders? What are their stories and background? The whole purpose is to understand the company, organization, team, and the specific job in as much detail as possible so that you can then confidently not only reach out to the ideal candidate, but also to effectively pitch this role to new candidates when you speak to them. In some cases, if your client doesn't really know what they want, you may have to present a sample group of candidates to the clients before moving on to determine whether or not you have to recalibrate your search and if you're on the right track. This is fine, it might be necessary in some cases, but it is also very time consuming. It involves changing your candidate search criteria multiple times before setting on a final pool of candidates that the hiring manager hopefully would like. One time we had a client who was convinced he really wanted to hire a digital graphic designer. When after going back and forth, it turned out he really wanted a digital product designer that had a background designing specifically software-based applications and not websites or simply marketing collateral. If you know as much detailed information as possible before starting the search, you can set off a search correctly for the first time and save a lot of time. This is why it is so important to ask a lot of questions during your engagement call so you have the best idea what the perfect candidate would look like before you even start. But if the client doesn't even know what they really want, you have to do your best at the start. Sometimes recruiters have to act as consultants and advisors and use their expertise to show hiring managers what they're really looking for. Additionally, if the hiring manager or founder doesn't even have a technical background, it might be more helpful to get in touch with a technical hiring manager or someone with a technical knowledge of the role to get their input. A founder coming out of business school won't really be able to really go in depth or be knowledgeable at all about what he really wants in a technical software engineer than an actual experienced engineer. So if you're picking up a technical role, make sure you're talking to a technical manager. Be aware of secondary preferences. While obviously a candidate's skill set and work ethic will be the most important aspect of searching for potential hires, also keep in mind secondary, perhaps more superficial elements that the client might be looking for in a new employee. This can be simple things like music preferences, pet ownership, favorite sports teams, and even the institution they attended. You may not think these would be important in the interview process, but having overlapping or similar interests can oftentimes help a candidate in an interview process as it provides an immediate common ground of shared interests directly with the hiring manager. If a client tells you, or if you know your client really loves baseball or jazz, and you come across a great candidate who also happens to love the same things, you would definitely want to emphasize these on your submissions. Also, while intangibles that the candidates might be interested in, such as work culture, culture, leadership, impact, and growth opportunities are really important, clients also have to understand that salary is also very important as well. Something you should keep in mind is that every organization and startup thinks they are the next Facebook, Google, or Amazon, but they have to understand that just talking and bragging about their culture or office space and offering a lower salary but promising huge equity, while that might have worked before, can't really guarantee candidates from accepting the offers and joining if the gap between the financial cash and the equity with all the other intangible perks are just completely way off. While it is understood that smaller companies and early stage companies can't compete on salary compared to larger, more established companies, they have to really stretch and do the best that they can to remain competitive. While equity and joining a small and fast-growing company is very exciting, in a market where people are more wary to take risks and chances, especially after the pandemic, smaller companies will have to find a way to make sure their cash component is as competitive as possible to also stay ahead of competing companies that might be offering similar packages. A company should always present their most competitive package that they can in the beginning. If they cannot offer something truly competitive for salary, they can try to think outside the box and utilize things like sign-on bonus, relocation assistance, and accelerated salary review to help. If you're a small company battling large companies for the best talent, any little thing you could do can help. Be available and get ready to adapt. As the middleman between clients and candidates, you will be in constant contact with both hiring managers and candidates potentially all around the world. You should be available at all times during the hiring process, almost like an on-call doctor. You can keep the process moving forward exponentially by responding promptly to all of the client's inquiries and staying on top of any concerns that may arise early on in the process. The longer it takes for you to deal with these concerns, the less of a pleasant experience it is for all parties involved, and the longer the interview process can drag on. For example, if a client reaches out to you on a Monday about a question regarding a candidate, if you were to respond 2 days later, the candidate you have submitted will have more time to get less interested in your client or move forward in other interviews with other companies, and you really don't want that to happen at all. Sometimes you also work with hiring managers who are in different time zones or traveling to one. If it's early or super late at night, suck it up and do the call or respond to them as soon as you can, because at the end of the day, we are paid to make sure they have a great experience and that we're providing the best service and results that we can. The more you can do to accelerate and condense the process, the better it will reflect on your talents as a recruiter among many other recruiters out there. Evaluate the client's hiring process. Speaking of expediency, you might not have complete control over how fast the process is. While there are things you can do like promptly responding to accelerated, you are also beholden to the company's hiring process. Although sharing your tips on how the process can be sped up will be valuable in this case. If you think a company's hiring process could use some work, make sure you make it clear that it's in the best interest of the company to be as flexible as possible and to make as many changes as they can. No candidate wants to go through 10 rounds when they can interview at other companies that only have 3 to 5 rounds. Companies can also miss out on star candidates due to this. Use your experience as a recruiting and talent expert to share what other companies are doing, or by illustrating that they can be much more competitive or offer a much better interviewing experience if they can shorten the process by this amount, or by this amount, or by doing X or Y. Everyone involved with this process wants the same thing: for qualified candidates to get hired at a great company and for all parties to have a great experience. In order for this to happen as smoothly as possible, a company should be willing to adjust their hiring process, or at least have an open mind. Show them that longer processes have a higher turnover rate, and condensing it will lead to better results for everyone involved. Also explain that great talent is always in process with at least a couple to several other companies, so your clients must do whatever they can to provide the best and fastest process and experience to make sure they can keep the candidate engaged and closed if they extend an offer. We only get paid if our clients hire our candidates, so we have to do whatever we can to make sure that they are in the best position to attract and close star talent over and over again. If the process is too long, if candidates are having a bad experience with interviews, or the case study is too complex, or if the references take too long, these are things you have to bring up to your clients quickly. As always, if you have any questions or want to share some of your own tips for working with clients, please comment below. If you enjoyed this video, again, please consider liking, subscribing, clicking that bell. It really means a lot, and it's completely free. You can also add me at Preston_Park, as I also try my best to post daily. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the next one.